Let's talk about the insult to the injury, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Black Lives Matter protests at a time when they're locking everybody down, and they ignore it. They act like it never happened.
They cheered it on.
They cheer it on.
They cheered it on.
And then they tell you to shut up, to stop going out, stop enjoying yourself, stop going to church. And then when you say, but what about the Black Lives Matter protests? They say, I don't know what you're talking about. Shut your mouth. Then you got the dancing nurses. I really want to get into dancing nurses, right? So I got this comic from George Alexopoulos. We had him on the show. He's a great artist. You see his paintings on our wall. I'm going to just read for you the panels. For those that are watching, you can see it. But for those that are listening, the first panel is an old man on life support. Got an oxygen mask. And then you see a word bubble. I miss you, Dad. The next one shows him, with the EKG going off. And she is a woman. She says, I only wish that I could have held your hand one last time as she cries. And the last panel is as she's holding her hand up to the glass that blocks her from her dying father. Nurses and doctors are smiling and laughing and dabbing and dancing and having a good old time. Dancing on the graves of these people. I tell you, man, you've got Joe Biden wins. They go out and they're dumping up and down. They're dancing and cheering. They're pulling their masks off, drinking champagne and passing it around. They tell you that doesn't matter. Ignore that. It's the businesses that are the problem, even though the science doesn't support it. Then you go to these hospitals where they say 4,000 people every day are dying. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. That's scary. And what do we get? Videos of these shuffle dances where they clearly, there's one video where they're in different rooms of the hospital doing choreographed dances in multiple scenes. And I'm like, come on. At best, that was like 4 or 5 hours where they practiced and went around the hospital. These people are laughing in your face. There's a viral YouTube video. This is crazy. Where it's a woman filming on her cell phone and she's going, what's going on? Like talking to a guy, like, what's happening? Like, we've been waiting here for ages. Are they taking anybody? And there's a guy and he's like, I don't know, look. And then they look down the hallway and it's a bunch of doctors and nurses like dancing and they're like, they got mops and they're shuffling. And this woman's like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Oh my God. Is this why we're not getting any service? Yes. They're laughing at you. They're getting followers off of your back. Here's what I said. I like this comic from George. I said, imagine you show up to a funeral. There's a dead body and there are people there crying and you're wearing your funeral black. And then you go, okay, everybody, we're going to do a TikTok. So everybody who wants to dance and do this dance number with me. How many punches you get in the face, you think? People would get up and you'd get smacked. Yeah. But these people in the hospitals, they're the administrators, they're the nurses, it's their space. You can't go in there to hold the hand of your father or your mother or your grandfather, your grandmother as they're dying. Many men can't be there for the birth of their children. And the doctors and the nurses are doing TikTok videos and dancing around, and they're still doing it this whole year. Do you see the one earlier in the year where they were carrying the body bag and dancing?
Oh, that was bad.
What is wrong with you? It said COVID on it.
Yeah, it said COVID. That was one of the worst ones that I had seen. But like I talked about this off air, how my just perception of that industry has changed so much.
Yes.
After this, because I generally looked at them like a positive thing, and folks that I'm pretty sure there'll be people in the chat like, you never dated a nurse, so you didn't know, you never knew, and maybe I was a little ignorant. That maybe they always been that way, and I just was ignorant. Yep. They were self-righteous, sanctimonious. They were just always like that. Maybe that was just always how they were, and I just didn't realize it. Even though I have a couple of nurses, maybe it's because they're family. I'm blind to how it is that they are. But after this year, I mean, it's just completely changed. Just considering how, let's take a step back here. Remember, we started with the slow to spread. That turned into a month. George Floyd happens, and I want people to understand what took place there, and that they shut everybody down. They've still been shut down up until that point, and it wasn't enough for them to just be, okay, we're going to start protesting everywhere. So all of the stuff that they lectured you about social distancing, that just went completely out of the window.
Yep.
But what really frustrated me was when I would see nurses, doctors, hospital workers in their little PPE or whatever, actually outside their hospitals clapping and cheering them on.
Yep.
So imagine being a business owner, someone that lost everything, and they had told you everything that they had been lecturing you to do. And we got up until that point, and then it just went out the window. And then the folks that were doing it, because they agree with them politically and socially, they said it's okay for them to do it. They'll get all of the experts and public officials and everything, and they'll say, yeah, It's okay for them to do it. It's a little different. God forbid someone house a rally or something like that. We got these protests breaking out in the hundreds all around the country, and that was perfectly fine. And not only are they still dancing, like we talked about earlier, with the nurse making videos about Skittles, what she was saying in that was basically, shut up. How dare you bring up the survival rate? How dare you question what it is that we do and what it is that we say? Who cares that you lost your business? Why even talk about that? And they're dancing, so they're spitting on your face, they're laughing, and it's like they bucking at you, right? They're like, yeah, what you gonna do about it?
Let me just give you some photos for those that are watching. This first photo I have, you may remember. It's a doctor standing in front of a car with her arms crossed. Another photo of a man standing in front of an SUV with his arms crossed. And there's a woman with a sign that says "Land Free," and she's got an American flag. Boy, did that go viral. The nurses who stood up to these anti-lockdown protesters, right? Telling them, you coming out here, you're putting us all at risk. How dare you? That's right. How righteous and what a good noble thing. Honorable. Well, here's the next photo. A bunch of doctors protesting in a massive crowd, shoulder to shoulder with their fists up. You can easily pull up the BuzzFeed article, healthcare work, or I don't know if it's BuzzFeed, but BuzzFeed has like the viral photos of the doctors blocking the cars. Then you get another article and it says doctors clap and cheer for protesters. Spitting in your face. They took your property. They destroyed your business. Nothing is left. Then the rioters showed up and smashed what was left and burned it to the ground. And the doctors were dancing on the graves of the dead while cheering for those who burned down the businesses elsewhere. And I'm supposed to be like, let's all clap and cheer for the nurses and doctors.
Like
yeah, they're heroes.
There was a picture that showed 1918 Spanish flu, and it showed all these hospital beds with white sheets over all these assumedly dead people. And then next to it, 2020.
Shuffle
COVID, dancing doctors. 99.9% recovery rate. The entire world is shut down.
Isn't that amazing, though, like how they can get away with that? But you bring up a great point, Tim, in how it's like we're supposed to just praise them and worship them at the altar for every. Look, I get it. If you're a nurse, or a doctor, you have a job, you may be going through this tough experience, or rather a unique experience. I understand all of that, but do you not understand how many people have lost everything it is that we? And
no, they don't.
They don't understand it, right? Right, exactly. And my thing is, and a lot of folk don't seem to want to mention this. Do you remember this whole lockdown thing and the restrictions thing started so we could protect them? Yeah. Now, it was a quasi way that they would say, well, you may need the service, and what if all the hospital beds? But this whole reason why we did this, why you had to put your life on pause, why you had to shut your business down for an indefinite amount of time, was so we could alleviate the stress for them. And then they had nerve to say that they're the ones that are the heroes as they dance on people's graves.
I got another one from today.com. This one's a video. Returning the favor. NY healthcare workers cheer for protesters. There they are, all laughing and smiling. The nerve of these people to block the anti-lockdown protesters, to mock and belittle them, and then cheer for the larger, massive George Floyd protests and riots. And this video I have is from June 3rd. This is like the peak week of all the rioting, the first week of June. They destroyed. We mentioned that guy, the firefighter. Mm-hmm. He wanted his dream business, sports bar, and they burnt it to the ground. And what does Kamala Harris do? She requests funds to help bail these people out. The left cheered for those who violated lockdowns. And my favorite story out of all of this was from like University of Colorado. It said George Floyd protests actually reduced transmission. It was too good of a protest. It actually made COVID go back the other way, because the words you say affect
the virus. That's how it works. That a virus, it sees all these people that are doing their thing.
Then they're holding up social justice,
right? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can't go there. Let's go to the Trump rally.
Yeah, is that a Gadsden flag? Oh, we're there.
Get them all in March, being like, okay, you want a couple weeks? I'll give you to get everything situated. I'll put my life on hold for you. And now, I want them off my back.
Yeah. No, you
get off my back.
Seriously, like it's like. I I guess I can give you some kind of leeway because you didn't understand what was happening. Though I've been covering it since March, and I saw the numbers. I saw everything playing out, and I was like, okay, I'll give you that. But we're 9-10 months into this thing, and they're still they're moving the goalposts. Fauci, I don't know if he has a position that he's held that's of principle, like he just actually held that position and wasn't just trying to hold the position that other people wanted him to have. The herd immunity thing, which he had grilled. Remember Rand Paul? I don't know if y'all remember that big spat that he and Rand Paul had about that, where people was like, Rand Paul doesn't know what he's talking about, and now all of a sudden he shifted on the position. So Rand was right about the whole herd immunity thing, but that's perfectly fine. He gets on magazines and like, what is this?
Now Rand is a dentist, right? He's a dentist.
He's an eye doctor.
Eye doctor. But he still went to medical school. Like, you got to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then eye doctor's specialty.
Yeah.
So he clearly does have medical experience.
Yeah. He's not just some Joe Blow, and nor is his father, right? Also, it's not like these guys Yeah, exactly. Like they know a little something about something, but it's like we worship this guy at the altar, and we got to hold the whole entire country hostage for Fauci. Like, and they keep moving the post. It's like, okay, 15 days to slow the spread. And what a lot of folks seem to forget, that 15 days to slow the spread had absolutely nothing to do with stopping people from getting the virus.
Right.
It was about spreading it out over a period of time.
So the hospitals don't get overwhelmed.
Right. The number of the people that were going to get infected was always going to be that number. They already assumed that. So why is it that we move from that to, well, now we don't want anybody to get the virus, and now it's like to a vaccine, and then wait, now we got a vaccine. We don't know if you can still.
Is it going to work?
Spread, is it going to work? We don't really know, so we still got to keep you shut. So that's the big spit in the face, is that they'll set this sort of arbitrary standard, and then we get to it, and then they just move it. They just moved the post.
Look what they're doing in New York. They're going to buy up the cheap property now. So these lockdowns destroyed the economy, destroyed property value, and then you get de Blasio saying, we're going to buy it up.
How many billions of dollars has Moderna made? Pfizer?
A lot. Guaranteed contracts.
How much? How in bed are they with politicians?
Dude, look. All of it is the largest transfer of wealth from working class people
in like human
to the
history.
Elites. In human history.
Yes, like in human like this is a big deal. Like the Walmarts, and that's what I didn't understand. That was my big thing, because one of my lady is a she has her own craft shop and stuff. So I was like, okay, the bigger Walmart, they could remain open, and of course you can get your craft items there, but you couldn't go to like even Hobby Lobby. You couldn't go to anywhere else. So
dude,
they were funneling people there.
Do you see the story about the woman in Jersey where she was filming her store on Facebook Live, saying like, my store's closed because of the lockdown, but I'm going to film what I have, and if you want to buy it, message me. The cops showed up and told her to stop. So when that happened, I knew right away they're not doing this because of COVID.
Yeah.
The woman the cops show up and it's all live streamed, and she goes, "Can I help you?" And like, you got to close. And she goes, "We are closed." And like, no, you're selling stuff online. And she goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "You can't do that. You got to stop." They shut her down, and she didn't even have people in her store.
Man, and that's the one you want to talk about, peeling some of these people that are on the opposite side. I think the whole the police thing, right? I think a lot of folks are, especially the guys that protected them, are starting to understand like who these guys actually work for, and who enforces some of these, not some of them, all of them. Why we call them the teeth of the state is right. It is right there, and I'm seeing a lot of people just like, wow, these guys will go into great lengths. I supported these guys, and they will go to great lengths to shut me down.
A lot of cops are quitting in mass.
We have seen that.
Yeah, a lot of cops quitting for a variety of reasons.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you this: I think you've got. The cops right now are the most consequential group in the country, because the edict from, say, Cuomo is nothing unless there's someone willing to enforce the edict of the governor. Yeah. Now, a lot of cops are quitting, but NYPD is loaded with a bunch of people who they just are willing to break their oath to the Constitution. Why? I think it's simple. Everyone's out of work. They can see the other side. They can see what it would be like to have no job.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I don't know. I fight for me before anybody else. They fight for me before I fight for the Constitution.
The reason we started the U.S. government was so that someone didn't have a monopoly on force anymore.
Yeah. It's actually in the, believe it or not, that people get rag on me for being an ANCAP. I encourage you guys to read the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, I've read it.
You know,
There's some funny stuff.
Yes, like and what it talks about if the removing actually the government, like it's actually in there. Like it's not anything that like no, they actually believed that like it is the right of the people.
Yeah, well, hold on. By
ahead.
what authority did any of these men have to declare that they weren't part of the British Empire? They weren't officials. They had no lordship.
God given.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But that's the way the British Crown saw it. Some random guys who property owners and rich people thought they had the right to claim that we aren't. No, we're the government, and that was the fight.
Yeah.
So that's a big question about government, and it ultimately comes down to confidence. Who believes in which?
And civil disobedience. I like how you guys are going in this direction. I want to talk more about that. So
non-violent civil disobedience.
Yeah, non-violent civil disobedience. There's a two-pronged assault. I suppose you would say you've got the government and the Federal Reserve. So we can stop paying interest back to the Federal Reserve because we can't afford
What's the government who does it?
Yeah, so we'll stop funding it. And then with the civil disobedience regarding COVID, I leave that to you as a business owner and do it the right thing.
Now, the issue is sound currency. And so if you want to talk about Federal Reserve, the problem is the U.S. dollar and just control and mass printing of it.
That's the problem with the monopolization and why need the competition, though.
That's why Bitcoin.
I was just about to say that. That's why cryptocurrency and all of those things, I would like more of that. I would like more of that, those competing firms and more of those competing currency. But you bring up a great point. And that's the two side of this civil disobedience, and that we need. Like I don't want it to get violent, but if they keep pushing people's buttons like the way that they are, where you mentioned, I think that's the biggest slap in the face.
That's scary, man.
Could you imagine living in California right now and having your business be completely derailed, especially in the restaurant business? And then you see like whether it be Mayor London Breed or Newsom. At the French, like, could you imagine that? Like, I couldn't. I'm obviously not in that state. But could you just imagine being in that position?
This is why you add all of that to the election stuff.
Ooh,
it's funny, man. I talk about normalcy bias. Normalcy biases. It can't happen here.
Yeah.
But this past year has not been anything close to normal at all. These past 4 years have been anything but normal. There's no more normal anymore, right? We had a kind of normal. But even when things were going really well in 2019 with the booming economy, we had this crazy problem of the obsession of Trump in the media, not talking about things anymore, constantly screaming, and media just went nuts and broke. We've not been in normal for a long time.
I've lost faith in the U.S. government in the last 2 decades with the Iraq war, basically, with the extraction of wealth from the Middle East. But this COVID thing has gotten me totally shaken in their ability to lead.
But combine that with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is Obama 2.0.
Yeah.
And what are we going to get? We're getting Goldman Sachs lobbyists in the transition team.
And look how protected they are. Like the Hunter Biden thing, I thought that was going to be like
people are going to blow. Like their heads are going to explode figuratively. They're just going to lose it.
Yeah, like I thought that the Hunter Biden thing was like that was one of the biggest like cover-ups for a long period of time, and then it wasn't until like he had to come out and say, well, yeah, I'm being investigated. And then the mainstream media was like, oh, well, there's a problem. Even though everybody else for months have been called conspiracy theorists.
Now it's useful to them, though. You know why? Because now they got an excuse to get rid of Biden to put
Kamala Harris in.
Yep.
That's exactly what they're probably going to do.
So now they're like, oh, hey, great. Let's rag on Biden. We don't care. Yeah. We wanted Kamala in the first place, but she couldn't get any support.
And that's why they want that control. That's exactly what they wanted. But I mean, I've obviously never had faith, definitely recently, in the government. But you brought up the point, which is fantastic, in that when we talk about there's like this whole return to normalcy and how, you talk about that concept of, well, that would never happen. We were talking about that in March when I would, for example, say, y'all know this ain't going to just be for 2 weeks, right? Yeah. And people said, there's no way that would happen. It's just a couple of weeks. What's the big deal? Government's not going to shut you down for a long, extended period of time. And that's exactly what it was that they did.
Dude, I remember when Trump announced he was banning travel to Europe. And like we were all sitting in the basement at our old studio and the TV's on and we're watching it. We all just like looked at each other like,
jaw drop moment.
Dude. Like we didn't think we were getting anywhere close to this kind of stuff happening. That's crazy, right? It can't happen here.
Yeah.
So I tell you this, man, January 6th is coming up. And they're saying, all these Trump supporters are going to show up. I'm getting messages from people that are like armchair activists. They're on the internet. They're complaining. They're posting memes, but they don't get out. and they're telling me they're going to DC. So that's why I decided, I was like, all right, let's try and figure out a way to do the show from somewhere in DC, like really close by. We can have guests come on because I think it's going to be big. But I'll tell you this, people keep saying Trump can't win. My personal opinion is it's probably not going to. I mean, we were even talking about before the show, like it's going to be Biden. Pence going to say for Biden. But then you talk about locking everything down. You talk about how abnormal this whole year has been. At this point, if Mike Pence came out and was handed the stack of electoral votes and just pulled out a lighter and lit it up and was like, I'm the vice president. Trump is the president. Welcome to 2024. We're staying in for that long. I just be like, oh, well, you know, it's another day, huh?
It's like
people,
crazier things have happened.
People are saying 2021. You think 2020 was bad? This is the warm up. This is the opening act.
Yeah,
it's not even begun yet.
Man,
look, and I think that's true. People keep saying, "Oh, 2020 was such an awful year." Okay, well now you got Joe Biden's people saying we got to lock down until 2022.
Force nationwide mass mandates.
Yeah. So they're going to keep the lockdowns going. Now you got this vaccine, and we don't know if it actually stops the spread of COVID. They're like people can still get it apparently.
That's so crazy to me.
So businesses are shut down. People are on like tens of millions of people on the verge of eviction, either because of foreclosure or because they can't pay rent. $600 ain't gonna cut it. $2,000.
$2,000 I don't think
won't cut it. No,
cut it. No.
The average debt now I think for rent or mortgage is like $6,000
Huh.
because it's been a year. People don't have any money left. So it feels like everything that's happening is going to lead us to a point where it's like Escape from New York, man. It's Mad Max. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'll tell you this. We brought up Mohammed Bouazizi. His whole bit was that he couldn't sell apples. He couldn't sell
well beyond that.
He couldn't sell apples. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well beyond that.
You can't even leave your house. Yeah, you can't leave your house, man.
Exactly. So, I mean, seriously.
I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to continue moving further and further away. We're going to get a big West Virginia property, 100 acres, mind our own business.
Man, sounds like the life right there.
Yeah, just middle of nowhere. That's the other thing I think about with taxes too. I'm like, just move to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You don't got to pay. Like the taxes are like $10.
No,
it's like nothing.
That's the move.
A lot of people are stuck.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, no, a lot of people are stuck. I mean, and they want to get out.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.